Hi, my name is ComicGuy. Today we're doing FNAF Timeline Remade. 1972. Henry and William Acton build Fredbear's Family Diner to entertain animatronics Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, also known as Spring Blocks. Anyways, a year later, someone called a person named Dan Eric had made a phone call, and of course wants a security guard at the restaurant. Anyways, they hired a security guard called Thomas, no last name given. Anyways, he goes to Fredbear's Diner and works the night shift. At night 1, he checks the cameras. Sees that the Fredbear animatronic has disappeared. He checks to see everywhere, but goes to an alleyway to see a Spring Foxy animatronic. And then, after a while, checks on the associate to see the Spring Bonnie animatronic is missing. Tries to look, but thankfully he heads back to the office, checks the cameras, and sees the Fredbear animatronic staring at him. He tries to check another camera and sees a music box by the puppet. Anyways, he survives until 6 a.m. Second night. Anyways, this Spring Foxy animatronic gets to his office and kills him, turning him to Shadow Bonnie. After 1978, another restaurant called Chica's Party World gets open, with more animatronics, Spring Chica, Little Bit Springer, and JJ. Oh, also got to mention that the guy we mentioned, also known as Phone Guy, worked at night shift himself, but then, and also the Fredbear, and also one of the member of one of the people that was inside the restaurant go missing, a little girl. Unfortunately, she was gone, but then hunts the JJ animatronic. After that, Chica's Party World then closes. So now we have two characters haunting animatronics. And here's the thing. Here's our rules that you need to follow in FNAF viewing. If you notice a certain animatronic, it has to have an explanation or a backstory of how it appears around you as the player. You need to have an explanation of why they appear. Now, the reason why Shadow Bonnie and JJ do not harm you as the player, because I believe they're haunted by people who never harmed anyone in the first place, who never even planned to harm anyone. Hence why Shadow Bonnie and JJ never try to kill you, never give you a jump scare in their previous appearance. That's why Shadow Bonnie and JJ are pretty much what people called sentient. They will not try to kill you. They just stare at you, making sure, by the way, making sure you don't get attacked. Anyways, Chica's world is closed. By 1983, of course, William and Mrs. Acton, his wife, get into an argument of whether or not Michael Acton is his child. And after the argument is done, she left in her car, never to be seen again, which makes William and Michael also being left alone by Michael Acton being take care of his old younger brother, the crying child. He puts on a foxy mask and tries to scare him. This leads to him surviving against nightmare animatronics. Fortunately, the prank goes too far and he's shoved into the mouth of Fredbear, which then closes the restaurant, Fredbear's Friendly Diner. And William has a promise that he put this song back together into Shadow Freddy. Which leads me to the explanation. So we see the theory that disproves once and for all that to me, the Shadow animatronics and JJ, all three of Easter eggs are just haunted by people who never harm anyone. Why does Shadow animatronic? Shadow Freddy does not harm you. Same reason. My theory is that he's haunted by the crying child. How do you know? Well, first of all, the crying child never harmed anybody. And second of all, it never killed you. Remember the rule for the FNAF theorist. Make sure you have an explanation or a backstory, an origin of how an animatronic exists. Anyways, after a while, William Acton also tries to build another Freddy Fazbear's restaurant, or another restaurant in general, Circus Baby's Pizza World. And unfortunately though, he builds Funtime animatronics and an accident happens. And Elizabeth Acton, William's daughter, accidentally gets clawed by Circus Baby and gets haunted. And which explains her change in eye color from blue to green. And also, it's believed to, I believe it's the first animatronic to actually be considered to be haunted as hostile. So, usually, you might think that there's two animatronics that work. Right. Sentient and hostile. Anyways, The business, Circus Baby's Pizza Roll, unfortunately closes, and a fun time of tracks get to be read out in Circus Baby's entertainment and rentals. Down an elevator inside his own house. What would be said crazy is Michael Afton actually gets down here himself. But we'll spoil it a little later. Right now, the business is owned by Fazbear Entertainment and the new restaurant, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. So now, they didn't want to do the haunting animatronics, Shadow Bonnie, JJ, and unfortunately the closing of Fazbear Friday Night, which causes the Shadow Freddy and the haunting animatronics Circus Baby. So they added new characters, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, 3 on the Stogies and 1 entertaining for Pirates Cove. Anyways, William, acting like usual, uses the safe room to lure in 5 kids, and this causes the puppet to use the animatronics Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, and Fredbear to stuff them inside the suits and make them haunted. After a while, the restaurant gets complaints about children being missing and animatronics having foul odors and being stinky. Anyways, after a while, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza then closes. This causes a mixed subsection. Anyways, a year later, William's older son, Michael, gets to work there, and the explanation of why he's there. Michael gets down an elevator and gets to work as a night guard. 4 or 5 whole nights. Until the tracks get used together to make Ennard. But here's the thing. One's scary animatronic, plus the nighttime security guard for human equals getting scoop and walking to society wearing that same sort of human, but gets rotten and purple, and after that, my god, then Bell's Ennard, and this becomes him to be immortal. Now, the explanation of why Remnant, aka Shoal Energy, does not work in the FNAF universe, and there be a better explanation of why William and Michael, being immortal, has a better way of explaining it. Remember I said there's a rule to your theorists out there that if there's an animatronic that you're mostly familiar with and it's mysterious, that has to be an explanation of why it's there. Or a backstory. Well, there's another rule to your viewers out there. There needs to be an explanation of why this character is still alive after almost being dead. Well, first of all, my explanation of how that should work is that there's a thing in their minds called memory immortal, which means that there's a chip in their minds which people add called memory immortal. There's two ways on how the chip works. One is that it has to be a contact warning sign to make sure it's still alive. Two, it has to follow memories to make sure those memories won't be destroyed. But there's a further explanation. The TV show more or less explained this well. What if William and Michael were survival gods of the FNAF universe? What if their bodies refused to pass on when it's finally stopped by fire? Or what many people call it, the soul finally burning away. What if they're the only two humans that how that chip I mentioned inside their head is making sure that their bodies is healthy enough to survive against anything unless it's fire. Have you figured it out? Well, so remnant. The remnant theory does not work because one, the two characters, William and Michael, being the only ones that will not support death, is explained, it's shown out of nowhere. It's not shown by the backstories. It just shows out of nowhere. Pops out of nowhere. Like a gremlin in the night. Yeah. Number two, where did it came from? And three, how our souls are controlled by emotions. There are emotions. They're what considered how you feel about your body. I mean, there's no way. You might be thinking, well, what about the shadows? Are they controlled by emotion? No. It's just there to explain to you not every animatronic. It's just there what the word is for most animatronics, and that word is hostile. The shadows are sentient. They can't really harm you. We'll get back to this in a moment, of the difference between sentient and hostile. Anyways, after a while, you know what happens. Circus Baby gets separated from Ennard, which later on they become Molten Freddy and Scrap Baby. Anyways, now moving on, we have the year 1987. A new restaurant opens and the old animatronics are in the back alley, and there's new animatronics, toy animatronics. If we're supposed to believe that Shadows and JJ are in this new location, and how they, my explanation of how they get there is that after a while, the puppet warns them not to hunt down the security guard for Jeremy Fitzgerald. And so, they decided to move by their journey and finally escape the abandoned restaurants that they were, and go to the new restaurant where they meet their new friends. Yeah. Anyways, Jeremy Fitzgerald works for 5 days. Gets bitten by Mangle and Red, known as the Bite in 87. Moving on, the new restaurant, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, closes down. Yep, the new Freddy Fazbear's is closed down. So, Fredbear is closed. Chica's Party World is closed. The original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is closed. Circus Baby is closed. And the second Freddy Fazbear is closed as well. Anyways, by 1989, the guys, which they got these 2 guys, which are the previous Night Guard's brothers, come in and go to a back alley of the abandoned Fredbears. They built scrap of new animatronics, which are dismembered animatronics. They go to the upcoming built Freddy Fazbear's location. A person named Jim goes inside and checks the rebuilt classic animatronics. By the same year, Michael is waiting, so he works as a security guard known as Mike Smith. His arrival gets 5 nights, but gets fired for tampering animatronics and odor. Makes sense. By 1993, you get, this goes on by 1984. And we know what happens when the animatronic goes back in the restaurant, goes into the restaurant, and dismembles the animatronics. At this point, he didn't realize that there were people haunting the animatronics. So he goes inside a spring body suit. But it didn't work. It fails, and it crashes down William Afton still on the wall, not until many years. Meanwhile, let's say late 90s to early 2000s, the people I mentioned earlier still builds their new animatronics. Now grow into their own factory, but the plan fails and they get caught. Plan them to escape. Anyways, years pass and FootofaFerret opens. We imagine now Springtrap gets to be found. At this point we know the rest of the story. Springtrap hunts Professor Ferret by Grafton, burns to the ground. Let's let them escape, but they're still salvage. They all together and boom, Henry Emily gets his foul speech and burns everything to the ground, ending this timeline by everything being burned. Well, it would into a timeline, but William Acton gets to be formed as Gustrap. He gets part of the virtual experience of Freddy Fazbear's entertainment. By not as a cover-up, but as a setup for his new follower, Randy. Gets build their own costume, and we see a mask there saying the future of this game. And the timeline finally hits its final notes. Now, before I go, I just want to tell you, thanks for watching, and thanks for my 20 subscribers. 23 subscribers, sorry. Anyways, by this point, we might check out 3 new YouTubers. The Andy Girl of her brand new video on the boring outcome game, Help Wanted, on their their way of junk food, and see her make that food. Unfortunately, not the entirety. And next, check out FootofaFerret on their version of the timeline on the video called Everything You Need to Know About Five Nights at Freddy's. And then check out Fusion Z Gammer in his video on January of this year's on his gameplay FNAF Park of Horrors. Check them out. And hopefully the bright future. See you next time. I'm at the ComicGuy. I'm done with weirdo animatronic bears and questionable and weird designs and unnecessary alternate versions of this series. I'm at the ComicGuy. See you next time. Goodbye.